Welcome to Moments with Titi. This is a program designed to talk about lifestyle, to talk about fun, to talk about entertainment, and everything in between. We talk about what Christians are facing generally in their lives and what non-Christians are also facing. But for Christians, how do we deal with them? Remember, some of these topics are not what you put your hand up in church and ask pastor a question. So we are going to be dealing with one of such issues today. But for me to do that, I have some beautiful ladies with me. My name is Titi, and I'm your host. Now I'm going to introduce my guests to you. They are born ready to talk about this topic. On my right, I have Tanya. She is an entrepreneur. She is a blogger. She is a social media personality, and she plays in that space very well. You are welcome, Tanya.
Thank you, Titi.
And to my left, I have Bola.
Hi.
She is an engineer. She is a professor, and she's playing in that space of education. You are welcome, Bola.
Thank you.
And next to her is Demilade, we call her. She is a scientist researcher, and she is very intelligent. She's powerful. You are welcome to this program.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for honoring this invitation. Today we are going to be talking about something that has to do with women, something that is very important to us. So let's start by bringing out the topic. Our topic today is what women want in men. All right. I'm sure we all have men in our lives one time or the other, and maybe currently we have men. So in going to a relationship, what are those things, traits or characters that we look for in men? So I will start with Demi. You're going to start with opening the floor. What is that one character that you cannot compromise on? This guy must have this trait or character.
I think for me, the big thing would be kindness. And I feel like we don't speak about that a lot because, you know, when you're Christian and people ask you, the first thing that comes to mind is he has to be God-fearing. That's great. But he could be that and not be a kind person. And I'm sure we've heard examples or stories of that. So for me, kindness is my number one trait. And I don't mean someone who's kind to other people, but unkind to me. Because you also have that way when you go out and you're like, this person does this. Everybody's like, huh? That's impossible because he's so kind to us. But someone who's genuinely kind to everybody around him, including his partner, is very important to me.
Thank you so much. So kindness is very important to you.
Kindness is my number one.
All right, number one, kindness. I won't forget that. Now I come over to Tanya. What is that trait you will look for?
Actually, I agree with Demi because that's the first thing that came to mind, kindness.
Okay.
Somebody that is genuinely kind. And the second thing for me would be honesty. So those two for me are usually things I do not compromise on.
All right, kindness and honesty. So I'll come to Bola now. Can you tell us what trait do you look for?
Yeah, I would say overall maturity.
Thank you.
Maturity in his mind, maturity in his mentality, what does he believe? Maturity in his taking responsibility. And also maturity in his having personal self-esteem and emotional maturity. Great. So I will put everything together in one thing. I will say overall maturity.
Maturity. All right. I think that's a very good thing that you mentioned, maturity. What if this guy has every other thing and maturity is missing? Since it's so big, it's big for you. What do you think?
He has to be mature.
Oh, okay. There we go. He just have to be
mature.
Mature. All right. All right. Okay, we have all spoken about one thing or the other that is important to us individually and maybe generally for women. I want us to mention and touch on some other, traits. Now I'm looking for quality, not the relationship itself, how you want it to be. What is it I'm looking for in this guy? Does he have this X, Y, and Z? So we have mentioned one each. Can we now mention other important traits or characters that we would like to see in the men that we are interested with? So I'm going to cross over to Tanya. What are the other traits?
I think for me, after that the first thing that comes to mind is ambition. I'm ambitious.
Give it to me. I love that.
I was raised to be ambitious. The environment I grew up in, there was no differentiation between a boy or a girl. What a boy could do, a girl could do. I mean, I was 8, and when they enrolled my brothers into Taekwondo, my father was like, you going as well? But I'm like, it's a boy sport. He's like, no, it's a sport, and a girl can do sport as well as any guy.
Oh.
And knowing myself and knowing how ambitious and driven I am, a person who's not ambitious is not somebody that should be with. That for me is a big drawback, because I feel like he will hold me back, or he will feel threatened by my drive.
I see. Now that you mentioned drive, I've seen that many times over, of men being intimidated by women that are confident and have this, drive. So I want to ask Demilade, what do you think about that? That men, it's a thing they actually say out there, that men are actually, shy, and they are not so open to women that have that drive. What do you think?
I'm not sure shy would be the word I would use. I think the way we've socialized men generally is just to believe that they should dominate women, because the man is the head of the home, so that means you're in a dominating position and the woman should be subjugated. And that for me is very problematic. So piggybacking off what Tanya said, I would say that the important thing has to be self-esteem. Because if a guy, even if a guy doesn't have as much as you, if he has a healthy self-esteem, it means he's content in what he has achieved. And as much as we say, okay, well, I mean, I also love a driven man. No, I don't think anybody wants a man who just wants to laze around and do nothing. But the idea is that even if he's driven but has a bad self-esteem, it doesn't matter how driven it is, he's still going to pull you down, because then it would become a matter of you're trying to match up to me and I don't like that. So a guy who has a healthy self-esteem is really important. I have stories. I dated a guy who was like, I don't want a lady who works. I want her to be at home to cook 3 fresh meals a day. And I'm like, okay, that's not going to be me, so goodbye. Never going to happen. Because that's what they've been taught to expect. If a woman comes into your space, she has to be there. She has to be subjugated, put under your authority to do the things that you want, that you see as her value, as her worth. She shouldn't dress a certain way. She shouldn't do things that are beyond what you see her as. So that just strays back to self-esteem for me. Self-esteem is such a big thing, and I don't think we talk about it enough, especially in the church.
No. Yeah. I would agree with you. We've not really talked about that enough in the church, and the interpretation of it. I would say that interpretation of self-esteem, it's not yet being talked so much in the church, and that is why we're talking about it here. So self-esteem is an important ingredient, and I want to think that cut across all women. You want somebody who has great self-esteem. All right, I think I love that as well. Self-esteem is an important trait that we want to see in our men. So I'll come to Bola. Outside your maturity that you mentioned as number one, what are the others traits that you would like to see?
Yeah, I think every other thing also is embedded in that maturity.
Okay.
And for me, I would want somebody, like a man that is, just like she says, self-esteem, that is not intimidated by the achievement of the woman.
Okay.
Is not intimidated by what she's has achieved, or she's achieving, or she's striving to do. But somebody that is matured enough, in his mentality, to know that even though she's achieving this, I need to support, I need to help, and I need to not to feel less than her, but to be able to encourage for her to do more. So I would say mentality is mentality. What does it believe as a person? What does it believe as, like, is expected of women? What does it believe to say, okay, you are now a woman, so you have to be in the kitchen, or you have to be doing this, or you have to be doing that? So what is it being carried away by the cultural beliefs? What is that thing that is pushing him in this relationship? So it's still maturity. Everything is still inside maturity for me, but the mentality has to be matured in terms of the way he thinks. It has to be matured also in terms of the way he carries himself, and he believes. He has to have that self-esteem. Like Demi said, self-esteem, believing in himself.
Yes,
to say, yes, I'm a man, yes, but that doesn't mean that my woman should not excel, or my woman should not achieve ABC. Yeah, so he has to have that self-realization to say, yes, I am a man. That doesn't stop me from being the man, but at the same time, I have to support this person.
Thank you so much for that explanation. I can see all the women are shaking our heads, and it's like we are agreeing on one thing. We want the man that is not intimidated by our drive, by our achievement, And whatever we are achieving, it doesn't mean the man is not achieving himself, but he should not be intimidated in what we are achieving. I want to say thank you for that opinion. But here is the problem. The culture in which we are raised in, let me speak specifically in Africa, says the man should be in front. In other words, the man must achieve more than the woman. The man should be richer than the woman. The man should have more accolades than the woman. The man should be all of this. So we are all brought up in that environment. Then how do we survive? How do we handle it? What can we do about it? Because this is a cultural thing. And when it's cultural, it's actually difficult to undo. So what do we do? How do we go about this? How do we educate our men? Who can say something about that? Like what do you do?
I think that in a sense,
yes,
it starts at the base.
Okay.
It starts at the base. Because if we're going into the culture, being brought up into culture and everything, I personally, if I have to pull from my own experience, I was never brought up in an African culture as is. I was mostly brought up in a very westernized culture, where it was my parents growing up overseas and then coming back to Africa. So I was always brought up to speak my mind, whether it was at home, whether it was in whatever way you could do, like whether it was my grandfather or whatever, they will ask you, what do you think? Okay, this is the situation, what do you think? And even my mom, like before making a decision, she would call you and she'll like, okay, I'm thinking this and that. I remember, I think I was 13 or 14, she was negotiating a contract for a business, and she called me and she's like, take this contract, read it, and tell me, what do you think? Do you think the contract is good? So from a young age, I was raised to speak my mind. So for me personally, in terms of the African culture, it wasn't really a big thing, but it became a thing when I actually grew up, and obviously you go into university, you go into society, and then you start realizing that people actually start saying things like, oh, you think you know too much. I remember there was a guy that I dated once in the past, and he said in my language, I'll say the word, he said, Mukajiwa Jimania, which means a woman who thinks that she knows too much.
Oh.
And that was like, wait, what? And I actually went to my mom, I'm like, Mom, listen, this guy told me this. And she's like, you know what? This is not somebody you should be with. I didn't raise you to be subjugated to anybody.
I see.
So for me, at the end of the day, I say it starts at the base. Let's start having conversations in the same way we have conversations with girls about you need to be ready about marriage, you need to be this. Because I've never seen where they actually speak to young men about how to prepare about marriage, but we always speak to women. So for me, let's start there. Let's start raising our sons to be husbands.
I see. I think you are going to another topic entirely, but it's more welcome because it has to do with what we're talking about. You have this sense of the way we are brought up. These are the things. I already have a list of what I could expect from a man, but what if I want something else? Then it kind of suppressed, and I will not be able to talk about that. Now, let's talk about this thing. Like, I'm really enjoying this conversation. I want my man not to be intimidated by my success. What can I do about it? I'm in love with this guy. He's good to me. He's kind. He's mature. But I know in my sense, African training, that this is the way we have been brought up. So what do I do about it? Yes.
Can I take this? I want to say that that's not work that should be on you, the woman.
Thank you.
It's not your work to do, it's his work to do.
Okay.
So when we talk about culture having this damaging effect on men, we actually ignore the fact that it has a similar damaging effect on women. That when we raise girls, we tell them, you know, you mean nothing until you get married, for example. You could go to space, you could build a spaceship, you could discover Mars, you could do anything. But people would still ask you, where's your husband? Right, so that has a damaging effect. But for some reason, women are rising out of that and they're saying, I don't have to subscribe to this. The question we should be asking is, why are men not trying to rise out of that? Because if we say that we're going to raise our sons well, that's all well and good. But I think Tanya and I are single here. So are we going to wait like 20 years for those boys to come up? No. So it means that the men that are with us now in our age bracket need to start doing the work. And the work starts by looking inwards and defining yourself by true values. Okay. We've let men define themselves by how well they can subjugate women. That's the reality.
Yeah.
That is why men are looking forward to being head of the house, even though they don't know what it means to be head of a home. You know, you would find a man who doesn't bring anything home, doesn't do any work, doesn't contribute anything to the family, but he wants to be called head of the home because that defines his person. And that means we failed in raising those men, and those men are also not doing the work to say, I need to look inwards and define myself differently. I'm not going to define myself by a wife. I tell people I'm Dr. Demilade Fayemiwo. That's where it ends. Like, it doesn't matter. I get married tomorrow. If I could marry the president, you would still know me as Dr. Demi because I don't define myself by my marriage to him.
Okay.
But why don't we have men who do that? So it's not our work. The men need to sit down and say, you know what, this actually doesn't make any sense. I'm marrying a partner, trying to build a family. Can't build a family with someone I'm trampling under my feet.
Okay.
I can only build with someone who's equal to me, who I can have a conversation with and say, hey, where are we going? So if men are not doing the work, then it's unfortunate for women, but maybe we'll need to go to Mars or something.
Okay, can I just add something?
Yes,
yeah. So I agree exactly to what she has just said, to say is the renewal of the mind. The men themselves should realize that this thing is not working in this manner.
Okay.
Because that's I'm also taking back to mentality. What is the
you did
mentality?
mention,
The
yes.
mentality. So if because if you say, okay, let's go back to the way we train women from when they were young or whatever, what about those that have been trained already wrongly? How do they change whatever wrong training that has been given to them? So it's something that is personal, and it's something that they need to work on by themselves personally. They have to realize that if I want a good relationship, I have to work on this thing. I can't live I can't live the way my parent lived or my grandparent lived. I want to have a good relationship, and in that case I have to work on things that are not working. Things that are not okay culturally, I have to change it. And that is why when the renewal of the mind comes in. And the communication also, you sit down with your partner to say, what are the things that work for us? Who are you? Who am I? What kind of a person are you? What kind of a person am I? What are the things that will work, for us? Not looking at how other people are doing their own relationship.
Giving you a huge support now.
Yeah. No.
I mean, she's saying everything that actually basically we are asking for. Open up. Be open to listening to us. Don't be like, okay, I'm Mr. Man, and like, you can't say anything. I think nowadays women, we no longer want that. We no longer want to tolerate that.
Okay.
So she's actually saying exactly what we want. We want men that communicate. We want men that compliment us, not try to trample on us, but actually you see that I'm achieving. You can come and say like, babe, like, listen, I see you doing this, you're going this way. I think you should do this like this as well, and that will help you. That's what we're looking for now.
Come on now.
And men would just do the work internally. Listen, we're all walking around with childhood trauma of some sort. As much as you might relish your childhood, there might be something there that's just not perfect. So we're all working on, we're all trying to do the work. We're all sitting down and thinking to ourselves, this personality or this habit I have is something I developed in response to some kind of childhood trauma. Men need to start doing that as well. That's not a woman's job. It's not my job to be like, okay, well, I'm going to sit with you and then you're going to tell me your problems and then you tell me that is why you can't change. Someone said tradition is peer pressure from dead people, which is literally
Say it again.
tradition is peer pressure from dead people.
Yes,
Cultures evolve in response to the society that they're in. People make culture. Culture doesn't make society. So culture was defined by people back in the day based on what they thought was necessary. Now we are here. We have women who are working, who are earning just as much as men, women who are doing the things that need to be done. And then you can't have a man who comes and say, well, based on culture. Okay, which culture now? Because society has shifted from where you're thinking.
Okay.
So you need to be shifting, dude. If you're not shifted, I'm off. I'm just bye, boo-boo. Do you. I'm not interested.
So what you're saying now is that all of us are agreeing on is that culture has shifted. It's no longer business as usual, like our parents, the way they were brought up and all that. So all of us here are agreeing that we look for that thing in our men, that they should not be intimidated by our drives, by our success, by our achievement, but rather we can complement each other. The fact that I have this huge drive and I'm achieving well doesn't mean you are being put down, doesn't mean you are no longer a man anymore. So we need that from our men. Should you be watching us now and enjoying the show, we would like to invite you to subscribe to our channel. Go to the Pacesetters Church. You'll subscribe to our YouTube channel and then you'll get all our content. It's very important. So let's move on from here. I want us to still talk more about, this is one thing, and I know it's important. It's important to me as well. What are the other traits, you know, that we love to see in this man that we love? Outside this getting over the culture and being mature and all that. What are the other things now that support that, or, you know, that are important?
I think,
yes, let me go with you.
For me, a wise person, a wise man,
okay,
and a man that is wise enough to be able to navigate his relationship with external influences.
Oh, wow.
In the sense that you marry some men. Okay, let's say marriage relationship now, because we are talking of relationship generally, right? So let's say marriage relationship now. You marry somebody that cannot defend the wife in front of his family members or external influences. So I think the man must be wise enough to be able to know, you know, how to navigate all this relationship that he has.
Yes.
He grew up from a family, yes, which was his nuclear family at the time. Now that he has married, he has been out of that family, now form his own nuclear family. This has become the extended family. He should be able to understand and be able to be wise enough to be able to protect the wife and not to, because everybody has their own weaknesses. So it should not be the person that way, because now you married this person, you have the opportunity to know the weakness of this person, but not to embarrass her based on her weakness in front of other people. You should be wise enough to be able to protect, you know, this woman, whatever it is, you know, and in their own, you know, corner, they can now trash it out. They say, what you did and this, but not in front of everybody. But so he must be wise enough in terms of financial wisdom. He must be wise enough, you know, like when you marry, okay, in our faith, Christian faith, when you marry, we believe that husband and wife, they are now one. You know, one of the problems is that when a woman that is, you know, making it on her own, even before marriage, now enters marriage and she just, okay, this is my partner, we are one. And this person is not intelligent enough to know how to manage finances. It becomes a problem.
It does.
And now when you as a woman now says, you realize that and you're like, no, let's have a break. I'm not going to put all into this in terms of my fidelity. You say, no, she's not submissive.
Yes. I remember Pastor says this in church, and he says that you need to be in agreement. I will use sync. You need to sync with whoever you're going to marry on various levels. He mentioned emotional level. You need to sync with that person. On spiritual level, you need to be at sync with that person. I'm just alluding to what you're saying, that it needs to be wise and all that. So, and I mentioned the third one, I've forgotten it now, but he mentioned that you have to be in agreement with that person that you're interested in and wanting to get married to. So importantly, we need to keep this in mind, that what women want, we want men that are wise, that can handle relationship with their partners, with their wives, and be able to separate it with extended influence, maybe extended family, friends, and all that. That's important. So I'm going to hit you again, Tanya. Tell me more. Tell me more. What are the other things that you look for? Before you go on, I want you to touch on the issue of money.
I was about to go there.
Oh, okay.
That was where I was going, because in the same way men say that we don't want a financial liability, we women too, we don't want financial liability.
Wow.
We don't want financial liability, because I'm hardworking, I'm earning my money, and then you coming into my life, and then you want to squander what I've worked hard for. No.
Okay.
And in the same way, I'm sorry to say it, we want men that bring something to the table. I'm sorry, we're wired like that. We like money. That's the way it is. So we do want somebody who brings something to the table.
Yeah. Okay. Can I rephrase what you're saying or explain it further? You are not saying this guy must be super duper rich.
No, I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that we don't want a man who sits around, who waits for God to send the food down from heaven.
All right. So we don't want that man. Okay, I still want to turn to this side. Let's talk about money, because we've been accused of liking money, and they will say that no money, no woman. You know, I don't know if you have ever heard that saying, that if you don't have money, the women disappear. So is it that it's one of the things that we look for, that this guy must be really rich before we can even think of him? Is it true?
I mean, who hates money? I think we should just start there. Male or female, is there anyone in this life who's like, you know what, I hate money. I don't want any of that.
I don't hate money.
Nobody hates money. Everybody at some point.
I definitely don't.
I mean, as you grow older, you want your life to improve. And
Yes.
it's quite unfortunate, but it is what it is that we live in a capitalist society. So you need money to live. You need money to be able to get a car that drives your kids to school. You need money to be able to live in a house where you don't feel like there's going to be someone coming and saying, hey, you know, the rent is due. You need money for all of that. So nobody hates money.
Okay.
But when it comes to women and wanting a guy who has money, I don't think that women are generally saying that we want a man who is, you know, has like 10 Mercedes-Benz cars parked in his yard that he doesn't drive or whatever. The point is they need to be bringing something to the table that the woman can work with.
Okay.
If I'm earning money, I would like to know that my partner is also earning something that we can plan on. I don't want to be planning on just my money and saying, well, and you're not trying to do anything. Now, it's a different case if you found yourself in a difficult situation. And these are based on extenuating circumstances. You can't do anything about it. That's a very different story.
Okay.
But a man who sits around, doesn't do anything, and is like, you know, there's Tanya, she earns good money, you know, she's out there, and so I don't have to do anything. That's not okay. You need to be bringing something to the table that becomes the household budget, where we can then say, okay, well, what are we working with? If you fall on hard times, different story. Your partner has to support you, hence your partner. But not that you don't bring anything at all and you can't be bothered. That is so problematic. So problematic, because women want to be pampered as well. Let's face it. And
so you were saying, let me cut in there.
Yeah.
You were saying that if the man falls on hard time, the partner, the spouse, the wife can support him.
she must support him.
You have that opinion.
She must support
Yes.
him. That is my opinion. That's why it's called a partnership. It's if she's been, and that again plays to the idea of subjugation. If you've subjugated your wife and you fall on hard times, you're basically playing yourself, because things just get worse from there on. But if you've been supporting your wife and you fall on hard times, then you can be sure that she'll catch you. At least if you've married a good woman. Now let's not talk about all the other.
We are talking about men today.
But you can be sure that she'll support you, because that's the point of marriage. Marriage is companionship. Even a relationship, never mind marriage, it's companionship. You're not just dating someone for the sake of saying I have this handsome guy on my arm. Even if I date Mr. Africa tomorrow, after 3 weeks he's just going to be John to me. I'm not going to look at him and go, oh, Mr. Africa. Like,
Not anymore.
That dies off.
Yeah.
It's now the
disappears
companionship.
so quickly.
It disappears. Like, even it doesn't matter anymore. But the companionship is what stays. And so that just having that support is necessary. But my thing is, women generally want to be pampered. I think men secretly want to be pampered. They just won't say it out loud, because they don't want to ruin their street cred or whatever. But everybody wants to be pampered, right? And so if you're a man who does nothing, you sit around the house, you don't even try to buy a candle. Just a scented candle for your lady to say, you know, when you take a bath, put on this candle, feel good, de-stress. I mean, come on. So you got to be bringing something, and that it all ties to money, but you need to bring it.
Okay, so nobody hates money. We all like money, but it's not the only thing on the table we're looking for, as opposed to what is being said about women, that we just like money. If there is no money, and every other thing disappeared. Okay, I'm liking this conversation. And I think as we have touched on the issue of money, because it's very important. Now, men spoke about respect. Where is the place of respect for women? They said respect is big thing to them. What about women? Is it one of the things we look out for men, respect, or is just off our list?
No, for me, respect is a must. If you're disrespectful, my brother, don't let the door hit you on your way out. And please walk away quickly, because don't block the way. Because for me, respect is absolutely important. I do not abide by disrespect. Whether it is in a professional capacity, whether it's in a personal capacity, I do not like being disrespected.
Good. So you don't like being disrespected. I would like to talk to you, Bola, about respect. What do you think?
Everybody wants to be respected, either men, women, you know, even children.
Okay.
They want their own respect also. So now it now depends on what you now term as respect.
Okay.
Because respect, we are not saying that, for example, some men will say, okay, my wife is not respecting me because she's not behaving like a slave, you know, to me. That's not that kind of respect we're talking about, but respecting as a person, you know, what do you see this person to be? Is it somebody you can sit down and have a conversation together, you know, respectfully? Do you respect our opinion? Does our opinion make reason to you? Do you buy it? Or somebody that wants to say something, just say, no, I've got it, I know what to do. You know, everybody wants to respect. So women, they want respect. We want men to respect them also.
All right. I like what you're saying, because if you go into the Bible in 1 Peter chapter 3, actually the scripture says men should live with their wives and honor them and respect them. And oftentimes, we don't talk about that from the scripture. What most of the time we talk about is women submit to your own husband. And I was shocked that in the same Bible saying men should honor and respect their wives. So for men that are listening to us, respect is also on our table. It's one of the things we are looking at, we expect to find in our men. To round up this topic, I really wish we have more time to deal with the issues. I just want to give our guests, give us one last word, you know, on the topic, what women want. Maybe you can quickly list. I know we've talked about respect, we talked about money. What are the other things? Maybe 1, 2, 3, just list them. So should I go where? Should I go to Tanya first?
Yes, Tanya.
Like, I feel like everything is coming to me first. But I think, like anything else, you need to be presentable. I think also, I want to be able to introduce my partner to people.
You need to be presentable.
Yeah, you need to be presentable. Okay, we spoke about respect. You need to be able to have conversations. Communication is really important in any form of relationship. If we cannot communicate, I don't think we can work, because though I may see something in one manner and then you see it in another manner, and if we cannot talk about it, I may be mad about something that for you wasn't really a big thing. So communication, being presentable, and just being a good person in general. Like, just be a genuine good person. That's just it.
Thank you. I will turn to Sister Bola. Can you add on to what Tanya said? What are the other things we want in our men?
Okay, I would say somebody that is honest. Honesty. You should not like pretend. Just be you.
Yes.
Somebody that has that sense of responsibility. I'm responsible for this person. Just like what Debbie was saying, that a person just sitting down. If you have that sense of responsibility, you won't just sit around lazily around looking, you know, waiting for your wife's to take care of you when you were doing nothing. Yeah. So and I will also I started with maturity. I'm ending also with maturity.
I think you like maturity.
but I want to say something. When I'm saying maturity, I'm not talking of maturity in terms of age. Okay. I just want to put that disclaimer. It's not because you are 40 or 50 then you are mature. No, I'm talking about the maturity of the mind, maturity of mental maturity, emotion. Can you put your emotion under control? When we talk about gender-based violence these days, it's because people cannot put their anger under control, and it leads to something else. So, are you matured enough to be able to put your emotion under control? When you are angry, can you handle it? And of course, we talk about self-esteem. Yes, you have to be so. You have to have your personal self-esteem to the extent that you don't get intimidated when your partner is progressing in life. Then we've talked about wisdom. That is very important. You have to be wise. Yeah, for me.
Okay, we'll pass on the baton to Demi. Yeah, please add on to what we are saying.
My biggest thing, besides all we've mentioned, would be consistency.
Okay.
I think we live in a performative culture where there's this whole thing of a man chasing a woman, and then while the chase is happening, he's doing all these wonderful things, and then you end up there and it's like, wait, where was the guy who was chasing me? Because now everything's vanished. Simply because we've just told men that they must chase and they must perform the chase. So they performatively chase you and they do everything. You know, if a fly lands on you, it's like, oh baby, They do it. But when you're in a relationship with them, even if a lion pounces on you, it's just like, oh, okay,
It's
like,
your
oh,
business.
you'd be okay.
Yeah.
So I think having a person who's consistent in character and also in what they do is really important to me, because I default to truth. If you tell me this is who you are, I'm going to accept it until you change my mind by your actions. So if a man comes and says, I'm in love with you, this is what I want to be to you, this is this, I need to see that energy consistently. You can't be in love with me today and then tomorrow you're disrespecting me, or you're hanging out with Tanya and you're like, well, I'm so confused, because no, be consistent in what you want, who you are, and how you act towards me. That's really important.
All right. Thank you for your contributions on this show. I would like to round up now, and I would like to bring everything that we have mentioned today. One of the things I would anchor or put together or harness from what we have said is, I will join it to what I've learned from the Word of God. The scripture actually describes what love is. It says love is patient, love is kind, love is respectful. So it's kind of hearing us talking about love, when we're talking. And this is actually the teaching of our Lord Jesus Christ. So what we are saying is that women, they want to respect. Women want to be, not to be put down. Women are saying, we don't need a man that is intimidated by my progress. We don't want a man who just, lazy around and say, because I'm a man, that is enough, I must be the head of the home. We don't want that. We want men that are kind, that are mature emotionally on all levels. We want a man that will go out there and conquer. We want a man that we can be proud of and present, then we can cheer. And we're also saying that, if you fall on a hard time, we're there to catch you. We are not saying all these things and then we just run away. We are there to catch you. Thank you so much to my guests. You have done justice to this topic. Thank you for being on the show. And if you're watching us, this is an opportunity inviting you to subscribe to our channel. Go to the Pacesetters Church on YouTube and you will find us and you will enjoy our content. Thank you so much. God bless you.